greatness in a sea of the dying and shameless. So a sea of the aimless. I don't wanna be one of the nameless. I'm a raincoat with the blessing.
How's it going, meatheads? Back with you for another video to pump up your day with some motorcycle content. Right now, I am currently headed towards the shop to drop off my bike to get a dyno tune. So, to give a kind of a quick little synopsis of what I've been noticing is I've noticed that my bike has a slight little tick, especially when it's like 80 degrees out and I've been riding my bike for just a little bit. You know, 15-minute rides from here to work, and I get back home and I'll notice that my bike has a slight little tick, especially in like the valve train area on the right side. I took it to the guy that I usually go to, which is Clay over at Barely Legal Bikes, and had him listen to it, and his best conclusion was that it's most likely due to the fact that my bike has an old tune for the old pipes, right? So I had my bike dyno tuned a while ago, about a year ago, a little over a year ago, when I had my big radius pipes and I had put in my S&S cam. I didn't think at first that it would make a huge difference because I was going to a mid-length pipe, so it's going to be a longer pipe and all that, and I had 2 into 2s before that were short, so I figured, yeah, you know, going from a little bit of resistance to quite a bit more resistance because of the fact that it's a 2 into 1 and it's a longer pipe, I shouldn't have that much issue, right? Well, in his experience, he's tuned many bikes with Bassanis versus other pipes, and in his experience, these Bassanis generally flow so much more air out of the motor that it will lean out fuel mixtures more than you'd expect it to. So his synopsis was for my little valve tick that I had was that it could be that a push rod is slightly out of adjustment, and I don't think that that's impossible. I could have not noticed it before with my big radius pipes because my big radius pipes were a lot louder than these pipes are, than this pipe is. So that's always a possibility that it's been that way for a while, which a push rod slightly loose and it's ticking is not a huge deal, but I do want it to get checked out. But I also do want to get this dyno tuned. I've noticed that there's a few flat spots in the tune and that it could use some adjustment to be more powerful. So I figured it might as well, especially I also need a rear tire. I need a new American Elite on the back. I think next time when my front tire needs to get replaced, I think that I'm probably just going to do a full set swap to something else other than an American Elite, and I'll have my opinion. I have my opinions about the American Elites that I think I'll share in a different video, but what I wanted to talk about as I'm heading to the shop right now to get my bike all the work done to it again, I don't want the Milwaukee 8 motor to be viewed as an unreliable motor by any chance or any means. I know that the biggest complaint or the biggest question a lot of people have is it worth buying a Milwaukee 8 or is it worth sticking with a twin cam? And the thing I like to remind everybody of when they're going and battling between the two motors is that you're going to hear a lot of negative things about the Milwaukee 8, but you can also dig down and find a lot of negative things about the twin cam, especially the early twin cams. You know, the twin cams early on in their life had issues with cam chain tensioners, and with the two cams you have to make sure that they're both in time, otherwise your motor's not going to run well. And they had other oil pump issues and stuff as well, and cam plate issues. So in the end, the things that you're hearing about the Milwaukee 8 are kind of similar things that you had go wrong with the twin cam motors. And the twin cams, just as they were in production longer, ended up having less issues because the issues got resolved over time. And that's just what the M8 is going through, is a lot of growing pains. So taking out the growing pains, and I've done motor work, you know, I have put in a cam plate, oil pump, the push rods, the S&S lifters, and the lifter guides and stuff. Like, when you make more power, there's going to be more problems, right? You put more stress on the whole system, you're going to find weak points, right? So you find guys that are making huge power on their M8s, and they find weak points along the way, and that's just to be expected, right? That aside, all of these like negative issues aside of like the growing pains of the Milwaukee 8, the M8 is still a far superior motor to a twin cam. They've just, when you have 4 valves per cylinder on not only 2 for the intake and 2 for the exhaust on both cylinders, you can just flow more air in and more air out. And I'll say it once and I'll say it again, when you do a cam on a Milwaukee 8, you gain so much more power off of stock than if you were to take a twin cam and just swap the cams in it and tune it. You will make more power, but you're not going to make the same amount of power as the Milwaukee 8 does. The M8 also just runs cooler. They got the cylinder deactivation if you keep that. I personally didn't keep it around because I prefer my motor to just keep both cylinders going at all times. In that regard, the twin cam motor runs way hotter. They are strictly air cooled. They're not oil cooled heads or anything. They don't have an oil cooler system on a lot of them. They just get hotter, especially if you sit in traffic. There are ways to cool those motors down with, you know, aftermarket oil pumps and all that, but those are the same things that will cause a Milwaukee 8 to cool down quicker too and run smoother. So in the end, the Milwaukee 8 is just really a better platform for making power. And as far as reliability goes, I know that there's quite a few people that have put, you know, thousands of miles on twin cams. You know, there's a dude that bought a brand new Road Glide Limited. It did 100,000 miles in 100 days. So that's 1,000 miles a day for 100 days in a row. And if he had issues with that motor that caused it to break down, well, he's not going to keep his 100,000 miles in 100 days challenged, you know. He's not going to stay on track then. So the fact of the matter is that the Milwaukee 8's got to be pretty damn good if you can hop on it and go 100,000 miles in 100 days and still be able to ride it after 100 days without any major repair work. You know, you got to say that's got to be something decent about that motor. Got to be pretty reliable at that point. And that's, you know, we're seeing some things with the new Revolution Max as well, that there are some people that are having issues with their motors too, and that's just the nature of the beast. Brand new motors and brand new designs are going to have issues come up over time, because you can throw a motor together and run it through the most stringent and strictest quality control that you can, but sometimes shit that you don't expect to fails at random times. I mean, that's how they set up maintenance intervals, is they run a motor until it fails, and they mark down, okay, after X amount of hours, which is equivalent to X amount of miles, we saw this thing broke. So we're going to set that as the benchmark, like, hey, at 50,000 miles you need to do this, and at 100,000 miles you need to do this, and at 20,000 miles, you know, so on and so forth. That's how they set those things up. When it comes to the fact of, like, is the M8 a good motor, or should I choose it over a twin cam, I gotta say, I will choose this motor, even this 107 over a 103 twin cam, because I used to have a 103 Dyna, and although that bike is lighter than this one, I still felt that this bike in its stock form with a pipe and an intake and then an FP3 Vance & Hines tune was pretty damn quick. And since then I've made it a little bit lighter, running a better pipe and running an actual dyno tune and now a cam and stuff on it. Like, honestly, this bike is faster than my dyno was, and I think that this is just a better bike overall. I've put more miles on this bike than I have any other motorcycle that I've ever owned, and I'm not worried about it ever failing on me, as long as you stay on top of maintenance and stuff and keep track of like the little issues, like the oil transfer issue from the transmission to the primary. I solved that with the Greg Williams push rod, and I haven't had issues since. Any sumping issues that you could potentially have, you know, I have the aftermarket oil pump that pushes more pressure through and just keeps the motor running cooler, as well as eliminating that potential issue. So it's one of those things that, like, I think the Milwaukee 8 is a great motor. And I think that if you're in the ballpark and you can afford a Milwaukee 8, you should just buy one. You will be surprised when you start making and tinkering with it and dyno tuning it and then putting a cam in it, how much more powerful this motor is than a twin cam motor and how much cooler it runs. And overall, it's just a great motor. I'm not, like, the things that I've had go wrong, quote unquote, with now that I'm taking it to the shop to get this like tick figured out, is probably just issues with the bike running hotter, or something just slightly went out of adjustment that it's causing an issue. It's not like, oh, total engine failure, or it's unrideable and left me stranded or something. Like, thankfully that's not happened, and I have no real like fear of taking this bike across the state out to the hills or anything. I just want to get like this little issue figured out so that it doesn't annoy me, because I haven't had a loss of power or anything. Yeah, there's just, it's very much so prominent when it is hot, but there's a slight tick. I think that push rod just kind of fell out of adjustment, but I'm not going to complain about getting the bike dyno tuned anyway. I was planning on doing it at some point, and since I need a rear tire as well, might as well make a few more ponies, make the bike run a little bit cooler. You can't really complain about that. So until next time, guys, I hope you all enjoyed the video. I hope you will see you around in another video, and if you like my kind of content, please like and subscribe to the channel. I appreciate it if you do. I will see you in another video. Peace out, ride safe, hit your maxes, evade your taxes.